The American West, a land of vast plains and rugged mountains, has always held a particular allure. Among these tales, few resonate as powerfully as that of Billy the Kid, a name synonymous with gunfights, outlaw justice, and the untamed spirit of the frontier. Born Henry McCarty, likely in New York City in 1859, Billy's early life was marked by poverty and instability. Orphaned at a young age, he drifted westward with his mother and siblings, seeking a better life in the burgeoning territories of the American frontier. Life in frontier towns was harsh, often unforgiving, and young Henry, later known as William Bonney and eventually as Billy the Kid, found himself caught in a downward spiral of circumstance and survival. He was not the cold-blooded killer often portrayed in dime novels and Hollywood films. This is the story of Billy the Kid, a tragic journey through the heart of the Wild West. The early life of Billy the Kid is shrouded in mystery, with conflicting accounts and scant documentation obscuring the truth. Born into poverty in the slums of New York City, Henry McCarty, as he was originally known, was just a boy when his father died, leaving his mother Catherine to raise him and his younger brother Joseph alone. Seeking a fresh start, Catherine moved her young family westward, eventually settling in Kansas. Life on the frontier proved no easier than the harsh realities of New York's impoverished neighborhoods. Catherine struggled to make ends meet, taking in laundry and odd jobs to support her sons. She contracted tuberculosis, a disease that slowly consumed her, leaving young Henry and Joseph orphaned once again. Forced to fend for themselves, the McCarty brothers faced an uncertain future in a land where opportunity often came at a steep price. It was during these formative years, surrounded by the lawlessness and violence that permeated the fringes of society, that Henry McCarty began his transformation into Billy the Kid. The American West, for all its promise of opportunity and new beginnings, was also a land where justice was often unevenly applied and lawlessness ran rampant. For a young man like Henry McCarty, the allure of the outlaw life, with its promise of camaraderie, excitement, and a perverse sense of freedom, proved difficult to resist. It was during his teenage years, while working as a ranch hand in Arizona, that Henry first crossed paths with Sombrero Jack, a notorious horse thief who would become his mentor in crime. Under Jack's tutelage, Henry learned the art of stealing horses, a lucrative but dangerous trade in a region where horses were not just a mode of transportation, but a lifeline. With each successful heist, his confidence grew, as did his notoriety. In 1877, during a dispute in a saloon in Camp Grant, Arizona, Billy killed his first man, a blacksmith named Frank Windy Cahill. The killing, while seemingly in self-defense, marked a turning point in Billy's life, transforming him from a petty thief into a fugitive on the run. Billy the Kid's life took a dramatic turn when he became embroiled in the Lincoln County War, a bloody conflict that erupted in 1878 in the New Mexico Territory. At the heart of the conflict lay a struggle for control of the lucrative economic resources in Lincoln County, with two factions vying for dominance. Billy, then known as William Bonney, found himself drawn into the conflict when he was hired as a cattle rancher by John Tunstall. Billy, fueled by grief and a sense of loyalty to his slain benefactor, vowed revenge, joining forces with Tunstall's loyal supporters to fight back against those they held responsible for his death. The Lincoln County War transformed Billy the Kid from a small-time outlaw into a legendary figure, his name whispered in hushed tones in saloons and campfire gatherings across the territory. His daring exploits during the war, including his involvement in gunfights, jailbreaks, and daring raids against the Dolan Murphy faction, cemented his reputation as a fearless gunman and a cunning tactician. Newspapers eager to capitalize on the sensational story of the Lincoln County War seized on Billy's exploits, often exaggerating his role in the conflict and portraying him as a larger-than-life figure. To his supporters, he was a Robin Hood of the West, fighting for the rights of the downtrodden against powerful and corrupt interests. To his enemies, he was a dangerous criminal, a threat to law and order who must be brought to justice. However, the reality of Billy the Kid was far more complex than the black and white portrayals that emerged from the fog of the Lincoln County War. As the Lincoln County War raged, Billy the Kid's notoriety grew, attracting the attention of lawmen determined to bring him to justice. One such lawman was Pat Garrett, a former buffalo hunter and saloon keeper who was elected sheriff of Lincoln County in 1880. Garrett, a shrewd and calculating figure, was tasked with restoring order to the war-torn region and bringing an end to the reign of violence that had gripped the territory for far too long. Garrett and Billy had a complex relationship, marked by both respect and animosity. The pursuit of Billy the Kid became a cat-and-mouse game, with Garrett and his deputies relentlessly pursuing the outlaw across the rugged terrain of New Mexico. Billy, a master of disguise and escape, always seemed to be one step ahead, relying on his wits, his knowledge of the land, and the support of sympathetic locals who saw him as a folk hero rather than a dangerous criminal. However, the net was closing in on Billy, and his days of freedom were numbered. By the summer of 1881, the relentless pressure from Sheriff Pat Garrett and his posse forced Billy the Kid into a desperate flight for survival. Seeking refuge from the relentless pursuit, Billy sought solace in the familiar surroundings of Fort Sumner, a small community located on the Pecos River in what is now New Mexico. Fort Sumner held a certain significance for Billy. It was here that he had befriended several members of the local Hispanic community, who admired his charisma, his fluency in Spanish, and his reputation as a defender of the underdog. However, even in the relative safety of Fort Sumner, Billy couldn't escape the long arm of the law. For Billy the Kid, the walls were closing in, and he found himself trapped in a desperate game of cat and mouse, his fate hanging precariously in the balance. The night of July 14, 1881, cast a long shadow over Fort Sumner, New Mexico. Sheriff Pat Garrett, acting on a tip that Billy the Kid was hiding out at the home of Pete Maxwell, a prominent rancher and businessman in Fort Sumner, rode into the small community under the cover of darkness, determined to finally bring the elusive outlaw to justice. Garrett, accompanied by 2 deputies, approached the Maxwell house with caution, their footsteps muffled by the night. Unbeknownst to Garrett, Billy the Kid was indeed inside the house, seeking refuge from the oppressive summer heat in the relative coolness of Maxwell's spare bedroom. As fate would have it, Billy had risen from his bed and stepped out of the bedroom, barefoot and in the darkness, to retrieve a butcher knife from the kitchen to slice a watermelon. At the same time, Garrett entered the house, drawn by the sound of movement in the darkness. A single gunshot shattered the silence, the sound echoing through the house and into the night. Billy the Kid, shot through the heart, collapsed to the floor, his lifeblood staining the wooden planks crimson. The death of Billy the Kid, while marking the end of his violent life, did little to quell the fascination surrounding the young outlaw. In death, as in life, Billy the Kid's story became intertwined with myth and legend, making it difficult to separate fact from fiction. Numerous accounts of his exploits, often contradictory and embellished for dramatic effect, circulated in newspapers, dime novels, and campfire stories, turning him into a mythical figure, a symbol of the Wild West's allure and its brutal realities. One enduring mystery surrounding Billy the Kid is the exact number of people he killed. Legend has it that he killed 21 men, one for each year of his life. However, historians and biographers who have meticulously researched his life have cast doubt on this claim, suggesting that the actual number is likely much lower, perhaps closer to 4 or 5. The passage of time, coupled with the romanticized image of the outlaw that took root in popular culture, has made it difficult to untangle the truth from the myth. Despite the passage of time and the efforts of historians to separate fact from fiction, the legend of Billy the Kid continues to loom large in American popular culture. His story, with its themes of rebellion, outlaw justice, and the allure of the Wild West, has resonated with audiences for generations, inspiring countless books, films, songs, and television shows. From early dime novels that romanticized his exploits to Hollywood westerns that cemented his image as a gunslinging outlaw, Billy the Kid has become an enduring icon of American folklore. One of the reasons for Billy the Kid's enduring popularity is his complex and contradictory nature. He was a killer, yes, but he was also a young man who had experienced more than his fair share of hardship and loss. He was both a villain and a folk hero, a symbol of rebellion against authority, and a tragic figure whose life was cut short by the very forces he sought to escape. The enduring fascination with Billy the Kid also speaks to a broader cultural fascination with the American West. The story of Billy the Kid, for all its tragedy and violence, continues to captivate our imagination because it speaks to something timeless and universal about the human experience. It's a story about the search for identity and belonging, the struggle for survival against overwhelming odds, and the allure of freedom, even if it comes at a steep price. Billy the Kid, despite his flaws and his crimes, embodies a certain rebellious spirit, a yearning for something more than the hand he was dealt in life. His story also serves as a reminder of the complexities of the American West, a period often romanticized in popular culture, but one marked by violence, hardship, and the clash of cultures. The legend of Billy the Kid, for all its contradictions and embellishments, continues to serve as a mirror to our own fascination with the Wild West, reminding us that the past, while seemingly distant, continues to hold sway over our collective imagination.